Hello, namaste, and welcome to Awesome Entertainment. So today's video is going to be US Navy versus US Marines. What's the difference? How do they compare? Okay, so let's get right into it.
Navy, the world's most powerful fighting force on the surface, beneath the surface, and in the skies above the sea. The US Marines, tip of the spear of American military power. How do the two services compare to each other, though? That's what we'll find out today, in this episode of the Infographic Show, the US Navy versus the US Marines. The US Navy was officially established on October 13, 1775, when the Second Continental Congress passed a resolution creating the Continental Navy. Mostly a token force that met with little actual success during the American Revolutionary War, the Continental Navy was disbanded shortly after the war, with its last ship auctioned off in 1785. Almost 10 years later, with threats to the new republic's merchant shipping from North African Barbary pirates, first American President George Washington created the Naval Act of 1794, which created a permanent standing navy. Often forgotten by politicians, the Navy would languish throughout the 1800s with outdated and few ship designs until the start of the 20th century, when by the end of World War I, the US Navy had more sailors and an equal number of capital ships as the vaunted British Royal Navy. Earning stunning victory after victory during World War II in the Pacific against the powerful Imperial Japanese Navy, the US Navy would go on to become the world's most powerful and important naval force. Although technically a detachment of the US Navy, the US Marines trace their founding to a resolution passed by the Second Continental Congress on November 10, 1775, ordering Captain Samuel Nicholas to raise 2 battalions of Marines capable of fighting both in ship-to-ship battles and land actions. Also disbanded after the Revolutionary War, a need for a shipborne fighting force arose towards the end of the 18th century as the fledgling US prepared for the quasi-war with France, waged exclusively on the high seas between 1798 and 1800. The US Marines would come into their own during the War of 1812 against Britain, where during the Battle of New Orleans, they were directly credited with holding General and future President Andrew Jackson's center defensive line. Leading US actions in the Pacific during World War II, American Marines would conduct an island-hopping campaign against entrenched Japanese forces, leading to the bloodiest and most violent battles of the Second World War. So, how do the two services compare? For starters, the US Navy maintains an 8-week basic training course for new recruits, while Marine basic training lasts for 13 weeks. Navy basic training focuses on shipborne operations.
Okay, let's see what it is said. Shipborne operations, firefighting, ship-to-ship communication, ship identification, aircraft identification. Okay, so this is the only naval wars and trainings related to it.
With recruits undergoing classes in firefighting, ship-to-ship communication, and ship and aircraft identification. Marine basic training, meanwhile, focuses on
marksmanship, battlefield first aid, combat tactics. Okay.
Battlefield first aid.
So they like train these categories in for the water also, like marksmanship in the water, inside the water, battlefield first aid, like doing it inside the water, underwater, combat tactical fighting under the water. So they get trained for both for the land and for the water. That's what I'm getting from here.
And combat tactics. This training focus directly reflects each service's mission statement, with the Navy's mission being to maintain, train, and equip combat-ready naval forces capable of winning wars, deterring aggression, and maintaining freedom of the seas. The Marines' mission, on the other hand, is to act as America's expeditionary force, forward deployed to win battles on land, sea, and air. In terms of size, the US Navy has nearly 326,000 active duty personnel with nearly 99,000 reservists. They operate a total of 480 ships and 2,600 aircraft. The Marines, on the other hand, are about half that size, with 182,000 active duty personnel and 38,500 reservists.
So they are like elite,
Other than a few patrol craft, they operate none of their own ships and instead are attached to US Navy vessels, but they do operate 1,300 aircraft. Marine aviation is split up into helicopter and fixed-wing attack aircraft squadrons. For helicopter-based close air support, forward air control, escort, and reconnaissance, the Marines are equipped with the AH-1W Super Cobra, AH-1Z Viper, and UH-1Y Venom light attack helicopter.
Okay,
The AV-8B Harrier II combat jet gives the Marines the flexibility to provide close air support, air interdiction, and surveillance operations. As a jump jet design capable of short takeoff, vertical landing, or STOVL operations from amphibious assault ships or remote rough airfields, the Harrier perfectly suits the Marine Corps expeditionary nature. Beginning in 2016, the Marines began replacing their vaunted Harriers with a STOVL version of the F-35 Lightning II. To provide air superiority for their ground forces and to strike at surface targets, the U.S. Marines are equipped with the FA-18 Hornet and now the F-35B Lightning II. In effect, the U.S. Marines are a ground combat force with their own air force, more than a match on their own for most other nations' militaries. The U.S. Navy has no attack helicopters, but does operate a large fleet of choppers for search and rescue, anti-submarine warfare, anti-mine countermeasures, and transport. To establish and maintain air superiority over a nation's coastal areas and to defend U.S. forces at sea from enemy air attack, the Navy operates the FA-18 and FA-18EF Super Hornet. As multi-mission platforms, the Navy's Hornets and Super Hornets can also be tasked with strike missions against enemy land targets or ships. While the Navy is slowly phasing in the F-35C Lightning II, it does not plan to completely eliminate its fleet of Super Hornets, and to date has a further 10 new Super Hornets on order. Tasked with ensuring free trade for all nations across the world's oceans, the U.S. Navy deploys very frequently. Sailors can be deployed between 6 and 9 months at a time aboard a ship and return home for 4 to 5 months before deploying again. As an expeditionary force, Marines have to be constantly ready to deploy to anywhere the U.S. needs manpower fast, and their deployments can range from 30 days up to no longer than 2 years, depending on the state of global affairs and the threat or prosecution of an ongoing war. The U.S. Navy is the most powerful sea-based fighting force in history and ensures that nations around the world have free access to the open sea. American Marines have, for over 2 centuries, been the tip of American firepower, fighting in every climate and settled continent in the world. While their missions and equipment may differ, both services are indispensable arms of the U.S. military that work closely together to achieve victory. And speaking of best in the world, we feel very confident in saying that when it comes to making and hosting a website, Wix is the absolute best. It's an awesome platform for anybody, whether you're a complete beginner, a business owner, a professional designer, or even a professional website builder. Plus, you'll never have to worry if your website is safe and secure. Whether it's a website for your e-commerce business, a restaurant, your band, or maybe just a blog, consider joining the U.S. Navy or Marines, let us know wix.com/go/infographics, or click the link in the description and build a website that will outshine your competitors. So, would you ever consider joining the U.S. Navy or Marines? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to watch our other video called What is a Day in the Life of a U.S. Marine Life? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like.
Okay guys, this wraps up the video, and I got this at least that when you have a water-to-water fight or ship-to-ship fight, Navy is gonna participate. Or if you have certain missions which includes aircraft, then Air Force people, that pilots called from the Air Force, and then they like take off from those ships, but they aren't part of the Navy. And Marine is like when they have water-based operations, whether land operations, they have like fighting skills of both on water and land. And when there is a ship-to-person fighting, then Navy is gonna participate, and person-to-person fighting, then Marine is gonna participate. Marine is like special operators who like participate in specific missions and specific guidelines. And if they have information about the thing, then they go right into it and came out of it with the safety and sounding and with their complete mission. That's what I get from this video, and thank you so much for recommending this video. I will see you in the next video. Till then, stay safe, be happy, and keep smiling. Bye.